love it when you're part of the conversation. So I'll let you know how you can get in touch. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981. You can also tweet at smooth981. And we're streaming live on YouTube as well. So you can catch that live stream up on our YouTube channel. It's Omatseye and Zibby. And we've got the analyst in, Mr. C and AB Bozimo. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, CB. Good morning, Omats. Good morning, Mr. C. And good morning and a happy week ahead to everyone listening.
Good morning, Zibby. Good morning, Omas. Good morning, AB. Good morning, Lagos.
Good morning, gentlemen. Welcome. So let's begin with the papers. Picking up Mr. C, do us the honor. Let's get down to the Punch newspaper, where it states Labour mom as federal government says planned protest violation of court order. And that's some story connecting and quoting the Attorney General of Minister of Justice Lateef Fagbemi, SAN. How so?
Okay, so thank you, Omas. So over the weekend, the Minister for Justice and the Attorney General of the Federation wrote a letter to his fellow Silk, Mr. Femi Falana, who incidentally is a lawyer to the Nigeria Labour Congress. And he was reminding Mr. Falana of the fact that according to his interpretation of the NLC press release that was issued in February 2024, announcing the proposed strike starting today and ending tomorrow, that there is a subsisting injunctive order issued by the Nigerian Industrial Court in the suit between Labour and the federal government. Now, I had cause to go and look at the said press statement, and the press statement touched on a number of things. Now, both the NLC and the TUC, that is the Trade Union Congress, issued a 2-week ultimatum to the federal government to address the food crisis or face mass protests. Now, in the same press statement, they also expressed concern about the non-execution of the 16-point agreement reached with the federal government on the 2nd of October 2023. Now, the AGF hinged his position on this second part, which is a non-execution. But we must remember the NLC and the TUC were quite clear. They were protesting the increasing cost of living, the increasing cost of foodstuff across the nation. Now, the AGF says that the planned protests will lead to a disruption in public law, order, and safety, along with security. Now, it's always astonishing when federal government officials, security agency officials, take the point that any protest against a sitting government, against a sitting administration, will always end up in violence. But when it is a procession in their favor or in support of whatever it is they're supposedly doing, it will never end in violence. They need to disabuse their minds of this disposition. The truth of the matter is, I'm not sure you can find any Nigerian today who lives in the country or outside the country that is actually smiling about the current state of affairs. There's no point playing the ostrich. There's no point pretending that all is well. All is not well. People are really struggling on a day-to-day basis. And for the Nigerians who are outside, who you think, oh, it's even better for them because they're not here. They have dependents here who are increasingly more dependent on them for what they can send. So rather than the government hide under technicalities, hide under orders, because the truth of the matter is that order only applies to the NLC and the TUC. It doesn't apply to the average Nigerian, to the average Lekon, the average Rashidi, the average Hassan, the average Ikechuku on the street. So if Nigerians, common Nigerians, then decide to come out and protest, will the federal government then say that the order has been flouted or disobeyed? Certainly not, because it wasn't issued against individual Nigerians. And for every order, for it to be applicable, it must name the individuals to whom the order applies. So here's where we are. The federal government needs to stop giving us rhetoric, it needs to stop giving us empty promises. We need to now start seeing, as a local people on the streets say, they need to start showing walk-ins. That's the only way out of this. Nigerians need to have hope. And incidentally, the MPC meeting starts today. This is the first MPC meeting under the current CBN government. It starts today, ends tomorrow, which incidentally is the same period for the strike. Let's see what comes out from both events.
As we get to put this headline to rest while we wait for the listener to get their reactions in, quickly bring us up to speed about how we arrived here in terms of what exactly would be the time frame for the strike and exactly who's calling it, and are the affiliate unions on the same page regarding this strike?
Okay, so I've earlier addressed this. It's a 2-day nationwide strike. It starts today and it's supposed to end tomorrow. It's being called by the NLC and the TUC. And from reports I've seen, I'm not aware of any affiliate that is not in consonance with the strike. Now, remember, you also have the bakers who are soon going to go on strike. I think the ultimatum hasn't expired yet. So the truth of the matter is, this should be handled as swiftly as possible. And the longer this takes, the longer this delays, the more uncomfortable and the more upset the average Nigerian will be.
All right, thank you for that, Mr. C. Let's move on to the next headline. And this one is coming from Punch. FG not protecting farmers enough, says Ijaw Congress. AB?
Okay, just a question on the last story. Is there a reason why the NLC, TUC, and co have not gone to, I don't know, lift or challenge that injunction? I'm just curious that it seems as if that injunction subsists and each time government rolls it out. And then, you just have to wonder why government always seems to need some kind of ultimatum to actually address these issues. There was a 2-week thing. Government, before 2 weeks, there had been 9 months of governance. But these 2 weeks, then they're coming and reminding everybody about. I'm just curious why government doesn't seem to take the initiative to address these things without waiting for these deadlines. But the Ijaw Congress has made a statement that actually I find quite true. They have talked about how without security, human security being prioritized, it's very hard to isolate food security because it is, in many instances, subsistence farmers who do a quantum of the food production that eventually find its way to the market. Subsistence farmers, of course, first of all, start with taking care of themselves and their homesteads, and then whatever balance or excess there is enters the food market. And the Congress is saying, look, we can't be speaking of food security. They make, statements, including the snide one about how it's ironic that it is in the president's region that we're hearing being the Yoruba translation of "we are hungry," being power. But that's a snide comment, unnecessary. It could also just simply mean that there are more camera cell phones there and people are saying the same thing in other parts of the country, but they're not being recorded. To the main issue, there is hunger in the land, like Mr. C has said, and few, if any, people in Nigeria would deny it. Even the rich now are getting more pressures on them to take care of the not so wealthy. And I would say that the rich may include 469 people in the National Assembly, about 4,000 in the presidency, and pretty much almost nobody else. The rest of Nigerians are really going through a lot. And we cannot, and they have stated that this hunger is actually across the entire nation. We've been hearing this little flashpoint, a bit of stuff happening in Niger, a bit of stuff happening in Kano, a bit of stuff happening, I think, in Kaduna, somewhere. And there are different little flashpoints, and we truly do not want a situation where these flashpoints join up to create a conflagration. It's so important that the government is seen to be doing something. There's a story we'll come to where there was an announcement of release of grains over 2 weeks ago, and we're still hearing about things being bagged. It almost seems as if there is not an appreciation in government circles of the urgency and the magnitude of what people are experiencing. And I say again, this just looks like simple cognitive dissonance. In the bubble of leadership, they are enjoying the spoils of winning elections, and therefore they don't know what even some of their party members who are not in the echelons of office are experiencing. It's a troubling time, but with proper planning, it is possible to reverse this. I need to see the vestiges of that proper planning, that ability. It has to go away from the Minister of Labour or AGF waving the law in people's faces. The law does not feed a single person. So please, it's not hopeless yet, but it is troubling times for Nigeria, and we need to have governance at, I should stress, the federal and the state and local government levels to address people's challenges.
We're talking about addressing people's challenges, and this would lead us to the next story from the Daily Trust newspaper, where it screams, Presidency explains delay in distribution of food items. That's Mr. C's purview right now. So, Mr. C, what exactly, after this order is being given, what's the delay in moving from order to translation of these reserves getting to the people?
Okay, thank you. Now, the bigger question for me is, why was the order made if they weren't ready? Why not be ready, make the order, and then people will actually see for once something actually being done. So you've made the order, and now you come back with a flimsy excuse that you're rebagging. You're rebagging the grains. What happened to your original bags? Have they been destroyed by termites? Have they been destroyed by rats? Why aren't they using the original bags? Now, there's no gainsaying the fact that one, this administration has a huge trust deficit. This particular, it has a huge legitimacy problem. So people will always take the hit of any declaration.
Mr. C, just a moment. From last year, I think by October, when the ruling was given, at that point, if you raise this again, if the court of the law, the land has said, I just wanted to get away from that.
The courts made their judgments, but in the eyes of the people, in the minds of the people, you cannot take away that fact. Two, more importantly, this is a government for 9 months. It is extremely difficult to identify what it is they've actually accomplished. Now, you would think something as simple as this, they wouldn't get it wrong. Now, you've made the order, and you're now coming back to tell us you're rebagging. Okay, now that you've told us you're rebagging, is there a timeline when you expect the rebagging to be done? It's cricket, graveyard science. Now, like Eddie said, and like I said earlier, there's huge hunger across the nation. In fact, the First Lady was in Kano recently, and the Emir pointedly told her in her presence, look, the people are hungry. Now, we don't know when this is going to start. We don't know when it's going to end. We don't even know the modalities for distributing these 42,000 metric tons of assorted food. Now, in some sharing news or potentially sharing news, the Minister of Agriculture says the dry season farming is already underway. It started in November, and they're looking to receive the harvest any moment from now. And this should lead to increased food supply across the nation, provided unscrupulous elements do not seek to smuggle the food items across the border, as was recently detected by Nigerian Customs Service. So here we are, right? Is 42,000 metric tons enough for now, pending when the harvest comes in? It's a big, big question. We don't know. How did we arrive at 42,000? Why isn't it 40,000? Why isn't it 50,000? Why isn't it 60,000? We don't know the metrics. We don't know what criteria were looked at to arrive at this figure. But more importantly, essential details are still missing. When are you completing the rebagging? When are you start commencing the distribution? When will the distribution end? It's all up in the air. And this cannot continue.
So, Mr. C, much as these grains will be rolled out, are you expecting every citizen of the country? Is it meant to reach out to them?
So, I do not expect this to reach every single citizen. However, we don't even know what states or what regions it's starting from. We don't know what points within each state will be the centers for receiving these grains. We don't even know the modalities for collecting the grains. Would you need your NIN? Would you need some form of identification? Are you going to pay, even though they say there's no cash, will the officials at the ground level insist on that policy?
All right, let's look at some of the messages coming through. Babatunde says, I'm not too confident of the NLC and TUC. Their threats carry no weight. To the current administration, they remain not very certain. Nigerians should not wait on the NLC and TUC to organize a major shakeup. Christy from Lagos says, I think the protest is for the 28th and 29th. It's actually 27th and 28th. Aderemi Adeniran says, grains are stored in silos on bag, Mr. C. Nothing happens to the original bags. And Peter from Festac says, for how long will the government distribute food to Nigerians? Everything is ridiculously high. This is evil. The National Assembly members are living large. You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. Please keep the messages coming. Maybe we'll talk about that on the other side. Stay with us.
Are an orchestra. Watching you move is like listening to a symphony of body parts directed by a maestro. When you walk, it is like watching a G clef stroll across an octave centered by a C sharp. When you talk, the cadence of your voice is a tenor saxophone, making love to a cello at perfect pitch. You are so smooth. That's why we keep it here, 98.1. This is Justin Egan, signing out. This is Johnny Drill, and you're listening to the Smooth Breakfast Show.
We're Smooth 98.1 FM. It's still freshly pressed, and we're still picking up all of the local headlines this morning. The analysts here with us helping to get a better perspective of it. And we also getting the messages in as you send them. Of course, Abi, you were going to chime in on a bit of where Mr. C left off before we pick up your paper.
Yes, there was one humorous part and one very serious part. The headline said, government explains. There's a popular thing, you go explain, tire, no evidence. On the more serious note, this is a project to get grains to the people. Communication is at the heart of any project success. By now, there should be graphics available showing where these 7 locations are, the planned form and dates of distribution proposed. Even if you propose and you miss by a day or 2, it's something. But it's just like Mr. C said, up in the air. We will, we shall, we could, we hope to. That is simply not good enough for people tasked with the enterprise of running a nation. That is simply not good enough.
Let's go over now and see what the Vanguard newspaper is looking like. And it says why, more of an explanation once again. Still, why I declared state of emergency in education, that's according to the Zamfara state governor. Why? Can we get any of those reasons from this headline and into the story?
Well, first of all, considering some past lists where you see the scores needed by students to enter the unity schools, and the Zamfara state score has been, in some cases, 0-2, compared to like Anambra and Abia State that could be up to 200 or 198 or something. Right there, you could see there was a major lack. If you can say that somebody only has to score 2 to be in the same context as somebody else, there's something wrong. So honestly, it's good. This is communication. The governor is attempting to say why. He said, look, the standard of education in the state is appalling. That for me is enough of a recognition and a spur, a reason why you should declare the state of emergency. What does that state of emergency declaration mean? That is where we would like to put more attention. Does it mean providing more school facilities? Does it mean providing and remunerating more teachers? Zamfara, unfortunately, has been in the news for some of the wrong reasons, like kidnapping, terrorism. I don't believe in banditry as a term, and all that. Does it include providing more security in and around the schools? Does it mean providing security for the parents who have to entrust their children to the school system? Does it mean supporting the Nigerian police and other security forces to keep these schools as safe learning zones? So, we want to hear this kind of story. We want to hear that the governor understands that, albeit he is the governor, the local governments, are they going to be empowered? Because education, especially at those elementary levels, really should be a local government thing. Is this going to translate? You call it an emergency. I'm happy to hear that. What will it exactly mean? It would be helpful to understand what the plans are and how they're going to be rolled out and deployed for the benefit of the students. But certainly, it's a positive thing to hear that a governor has acknowledged and recognized that, hey, this is simply not good enough, and is now declaring a state of emergency. Maybe it'll mean that some of the gold from Zamfara, the revenues from that, will be put into making, why can't Zamfara be the top scoring school in Nigeria? It's a question. And if a governor poses it like that, that's a very good arc that they can now try and climb.
Just to dredge that, some of the observations you made earlier on a bit for clarity, at some point in time, not the making of the Zamfara state government, with those writing JAM back in the days, or UTME as it is right now, it was said there were zones in the country known as educationally disadvantaged parts of the country, so you could not put them on the same pedestal as, say, places like Lagos or Delta or Anambra. That
Why
would you
not?
say in itself cause this kind of left them behind?
Yes. Listen, no, they left themselves behind. There's this whole thing of education disadvantage. I understand it. I understand that you do want to encourage education, but I think for too long it has become a crutch that many people have relied on. And I'm happy to hear Governor saying, disadvantage or not, we need to step our game up. So that's a good step, but he can't do it alone. It has to percolate throughout the entire system, the state, local government, and so on. And any matching funds from the FG should be put to good use. Provides conditions in the schools so that there's water, there's electricity where possible. The amount that many of these assembly members use for lunch can be used for solar energy powered pumps so that there's water all the time. And there's even light for keeping one or two things cool in laboratories. Put your mind to it, you can step up the game and the students can enjoy learning.
All right, let's look at a few messages coming through. Chibuzor says, one of the biggest issues with educationally disadvantaged states is that this status was set over 40 years ago without plans to redress or tips, I believe that is, for states to improve. Typical Nigerian plans. Zamfara has failed to pay for WAEC students over the last few years. Gilbert Musa from Festac says, on the story on hunger in the land, let us ask ourselves, how did we arrive at this desperate situation? How come citizens don't hold leadership to be responsible and accountable for expenditure? Do we know our various local government officials, their budgets and expenditure? Do we know the primary functions of our various local governments? Let us start from our local government's leadership. And Ajayi says, government's shoddy approach to the pressing issues of rising cost of food could lead to disastrous consequences, as can be seen at the customs auction of rice, where lives were lost. The government does seem to be completely lost of ideas on how to make life meaningful for the people.
There was an 8 point something, a calculation from someone, Olumide.
Right. Olumide says 42,000 metric tons is 8.4 million 50-kilo bags of rice grain. You can do the math from there. Let's move on to Premium Times. Mr. C. Sarap sues governors Wike over local government funds.
Okay, thank you, Zibby. So Sarah, once again, has taken up the matter of protecting the citizens, and they're filing a suit asking the governors and the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory to make public all allocations to local governments from 1999 till date. Now, why has this become necessary? Sometime in 2022, the immediate past president had said publicly that governors were taking a substantial chunk of monies meant for those local governments. And he gave a scenario where 100 million naira is supposed to go to a local government. The chairman collects, say, 10 million or 50 million, but signs he's collected the whole complete allocation. And I think he's not too far from the truth, because go around the country, we have 774 local governments, councils, as listed in the Constitution. We have incomplete development authorities in Lagos because they never completed the process as outlined in the Constitution. Every single one of them is almost in a state of disrepair or near abandonment. You don't know what they're supposed to be doing. You barely know your officials, and the officials too, in some cases, do not want to be known. So if you were to visit your average local government office from Monday to Friday, you will discover that the person you're looking for may only come in at best once that week or twice. But to expect them to come in all 5 days of the week, that's a tall order. And this is replicated around the country. Now, in their defense, the local government chairman will tell you that until they become fully autonomous, the people should reduce or lower their expectations about what they get from them. Now, this is a step in the right direction. Will the government, state governments, and the FCT comply? That's another big ask. Because remember, they have constitutional immunity. They cannot be arrested. They cannot be tried. So if they flout the order, you can't even hold them in contempt. Now, this is where you would expect the various state houses of assembly to step in. This is where you would expect the National Assembly, which legislates laws for the Federal Capital Territory, to step in. But again, the political class continues to demonstrate quite clearly that it is quite removed from the realities of the average Nigerian. And I would like to apologize publicly. I did say Nigerians were suffering from day to day. That's not correct. Nigerians are suffering from hour to hour because prices keep changing dramatically. So what the price of a particular item at 9 o'clock in the morning may not be the same price at 10:30, may not be the same price at 1 p.m. And there's seemingly next to nothing that the current administration is doing about this. We can't continue this way.
I'll go over now to AB. AB, would like you to help us sum this up in about a minute, and it's from the Guardian newspaper, where reps suspend NAFDAC's ban on sachet alcoholics and PET bottles.
We've been hearing this story. There's been protest against this ban. There was a 5-year period in which this ban was supposed to be effected. The ban has come into. There was even a 2-year time frame where the production of those items in PET and sachets was supposed to be stopped. So it's actually unfortunate. And the whole purpose of this, they say, is to minimize the use of alcohol among children and, minors. Now, this is a societal thing. I don't see why, as a seller, I should sell to a minor. So the sellers themselves are guilty. If you have a sachet and a child comes to buy, you should not sell. There should be some consequences. But the summary is, it's unfortunate. The National Assembly has stopped the ban, and they say they're going to investigate. As far as I'm concerned, that investigation may end up nowhere. And so the problem of children and alcohol has to be addressed more holistically as a society. Abroad, you get carded. If you go into a certain place, even if you are old, but you look young, they'll first of all inquire to make sure you have to have your identity to identify you as old enough to even enter the place, to even have alcohol and all that, or cigarettes. We have NIN, BVN, every form of N. Let's start applying them. And when people are seen to flout them, as in sell to minors, they should be punished. It can have a dampening effect on that too.
So not even the fact that over 5 million jobs will be lost by the ban of these people is enough to probably suspend it for now. Livelihoods are stake. Revenue to the states.
5 years was long enough for them to have transitioned away from it. And so I have zero sympathy for the manufacturers. They had 5 years. The National Assembly has said they should suspend it. Fine. I can't go against that. But I feel the manufacturers should have taken their L.
So very quickly, I'm sorry, I'm asked 30%. Who came up with that figure? How is it arrived at?
Mr. C, it's time for us to go. You want to do a quick dive on this one? No,
we're out of time. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for your messages. Unfortunately, we can't take them all. Special thanks to our analysts, Mr. C and AB Bozimo, for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
AB, are we going to hear you agree or disagree?
Hit me up, man.
Okay, I'll do it for AB. Agree or disagree? Hit him up on social media. It's AB Bozimo across all platforms.
Yeah.
That's it for Freshly Pressed. Please stay with us. There's more to come on the Smooth
Thank
Breakfast.
you. Agree, disagree, hit me up at Bozimo on all platforms, smartphones.
Welcome back, AB. I did that for you.
I heard it. Thank you.
The